listening to the HWP Report, bringing you news and information about issues pertaining to health, wellness, and performance, with your host, Dr. Faiz Kirsten.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to this podcast of the Health Wellness Performance Institute. The Institute merges root cause medicine with empowerment programs, thereby helping people to prevent and reverse chronic illness and to optimize their health and wellness. Now, our 3-month program focuses largely on assisting patients who have been experiencing ongoing struggles with cancer, autoimmune diseases, and neurodegenerative diseases such as Parkinson's disease and dementia, amongst others. We do, however, also assist patients with other chronic diseases such as diabetes and hypertension, for example, and who are interested in reversing these conditions. And the Institute also offers various health and wellness products and educational courses. So visit us at the link below to learn more about the Health Wellness Performance Institute. Okay, so welcome to this last part 3 of the podcast on neurodegeneration. And in this part, I will be touching on prevention of neurodegeneration and some natural ways to regenerate a degenerating brain. However, please note that I do intend making a comprehensive course available on this subject. So in this podcast, I will only provide a summarized version of the topic. It will be a paid course and it will be available on the Thinkific or the TabletWise platforms, or both of them, or perhaps on another platform. I'm not sure which one yet. But if you would like to be notified when the course becomes available, then please make sure you are on our mailing list. Okay, so let's get into the prevention of neurodegeneration and restoration of brain health. Now, some of the non-negotiables for a healthy brain, there's quite a few of them, and I'll just mention a couple. The first thing, of course, is to avoid or eliminate toxic stresses, such as including chronic psychological stress, of course. Optimize your nutrition, intermittent fasting, very important. Physical exercise, because physical exercise actually increases blood flow to the brain, and this delivers more oxygen and glucose to hungry brain cells, because brain cells can't actually store glucose, so they need to be fed with glucose on an ongoing basis. In fact, 30 minutes of moderate cardio is enough to boost cognitive function at any age. And physical exercise also stimulates the hippocampal neurogenesis. So, in fact, long-term memory is stored in the brain. And it's also important in preventing age-related cognitive decline and dementia. So physical exercise is very important. But there's obviously another type of exercise, and that's called mental exercise. Okay, so ongoing critical thinking is important to maintain a sharp and lucid brain. And so brain fitness training improves cognitive skills such as memory, processing speed, flexibility, concentration, focus, and so forth. And also translating to better performance on a daily, on your daily living, the tasks that you do on a daily basis. If you exercise your brain on a regular basis, you will perform better at your daily living tasks. Things such as your personal finances, for example, preparing meals, and so forth. So one should never stop learning and challenging your mind, basically. Quality sleep is also very important. Hydration, always keep yourself well hydrated. Detox your body and your brain on a regular basis. That's another very important thing to do. Use herbs and essential oils regularly. Okay, so there's many more. I think we did mention some in the previous parts of this podcast. But we'll get into more detail just now. Now, one must understand that mitochondrial dysfunction, abnormal functioning of the mitochondria, and death of mitochondria really are at the heart of neurodegeneration, because the powerhouse of your cells, and including your brain cells, your neurons, are the mitochondria. Okay. And so there's many options available to prevent and reverse mitochondrial dysfunction and death of mitochondria, okay? Or rather, just the dysfunction of the mitochondria, basically. neurogenesis can be increased, with specific foods and nutrients, cutting-edge therapies, and lifestyle habits, and advanced supplements and herbs. And so let's talk about lifestyle and special therapies. Now, I did mention physical exercise. It actually increases neurogenesis 4 to 5 times the normal rate, basically. So physical exercise confers massive benefits on your brain. And then we mentioned mental exercise, which is cognitive training, also provides major benefits. Then obviously you need to mentally or do mental exercises to retain a sharp and lucid brain. So you must never stop learning and challenging your mind, basically, which we just mentioned, right? So sun exposure is another very important lifestyle, you can say, or special therapy. It also confers massive benefits, multiple benefits, including the stimulation of vitamin D production and neurotransmitter production. And it obviously positively influences mood, emotions, and behavior. So exposing oneself to sunshine on a daily, really literally on a daily basis is very important. And exposure to sunshine also, like exercise, it increases something called BDNF, or brain-derived neurotropic factor, which really stimulates neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. So another therapy that's available is photobiomodulation, also known as low-level light therapy. This is basically it's an application of low-power lasers or light-emitting diodes to the body and brain for therapeutic purposes. Sunlight actually contains red and infrared light. So if you want to save costs, sunbathing is actually an alternative thing to do instead of using the actual lamps. All right, so it also, as this photobiomodulation therapy actually increases hippocampal and prefrontal cortex size, especially. And it also basically increases neurogenesis, which we're talking about right now, of course. And it increases neurogenesis via increasing melatonin levels. That's photobiomodulation. Now, brainwave entrainment. I've covered this extensively in my subconscious mind report, but we'll go through it again now. So it's a very important technological development that occurred about 30 years ago. So when you're using brainwave entrainment, basically you're exposed to a periodically repeating pulse of sound or light. The purpose of this is to cause the frequency of your brain to match the frequency of the pulse. So if you expose the brain to a certain kind of energy, sound or light, which goes at a certain frequency, the brain will start to vibrate at that same frequency. And it's called the frequency following response. So the vibration of the brain follows on the frequency that it's exposed to, or mimics it basically. So, and this basically, these sound waves actually then can improve your brain's ability to think, your ability to learn, to create and solve problems. Now, brainwave entrainment is useful because specific mental states are associated with production of specific brainwave frequencies. So by listening to particular frequencies, you can access specific states of mind more easily. So let's say you've been feeling pretty stressed lately and so want to access a really deep, relaxed state of mind. So this is quite easy, with brainwave entrainment. All you have to do is listen to an audio track with the right frequency to get you into that state of mind, and very soon you'll be in that state of mind. So you can basically get yourself into almost any mental state just by exposing the brain to the frequency of that mental state. So if you want to get into the alpha state and you're in the beta state now, then you just listen to an audio, for example, going at the frequency of the alpha rate, that range of frequencies, and pretty soon you'll be in the alpha state. and same with the other states. Okay, so brainwave entrainment stimulates the production of hormones and neurotransmitters such as melatonin, DHEA, dopamine, and also lowers the cortisol levels if this is too high. Now, another way of promoting neurogenesis is to use hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And basically what hyperbaric oxygen does, it enhances the body's natural healing processes. Okay, so if you inhale 100% oxygen in a pressurized room or chamber, what will happen is this oxygen will reach all your body tissues and fluids more easily. Okay, and goes to all the body's tissues and and fluids, the central nervous system also, and especially where circulation is poor and tissues are damaged. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy basically helps the oxygen to reach those areas more easily. Okay, and it actually turns on, this kind of treatment turns on thousands of genes which are responsible for growth, hormone production, and reducing inflammation. It's quite an expensive therapy, so oxygen concentrators are actually cheaper. Okay, now another thing that needs to be done if you want to prevent or reverse degeneration and to regenerate your brain is to support your thyroid gland. Okay, thyroid hormones are crucial for optimal health, including optimal brain health, and a deficiency of thyroid hormone will reduce neurogenesis. Okay, so taking thyroid hormone greatly stimulates neurogenesis. And there's many ways to increase your thyroid hormone levels and improve thyroid function. Eating coconut oil regularly actually helps to do this. Avoid gluten and all processed foods. You take iodine, zinc, selenium, reduce stress, and other measures. All these will help to support your thyroid gland and make it function better. And then also help to stimulate neurogenesis when your thyroid hormone is functioning better. Okay, so another therapy is transcranial magnetic stimulation, where it's a non-invasive procedure, and it uses magnetic fields, which create electric currents, and then this is used to stimulate specific areas of the brain. And what it does, it stimulates firing of neuronal circuits and the release of neurotransmitters, such as serotonin, dopamine, and noradrenaline. And it basically significantly increases connections between the neurons and the production of new nerve cells, new neurons. Okay, and transcranial magnetic stimulation is very helpful in many conditions, including Parkinson's and depression. Okay, so we also have meditation and neurofeedback. And I'm not going to go too much into these. Okay, the following therapies, I won't delve too much into them. I'll just mention them basically. So I mentioned meditation and neurofeedback. Also try to get out into nature regularly, because the brain really thrives in nature. And artificial environments actually destroy the brain. So in fact, natural light and clean fresh air is basically helps the brain to thrive, basically. Okay, whereas if you're sitting in an artificially lit room, or living in a pollution-filled city, this basically destroys the brain. Okay, so spend time in nature, or bring it indoors if you can't get out regularly, and listen to the sound of nature as often as you can. Another one to do is to basically enrich your environment. And this involves a lot of things, so I'm not going to really delve into that. Okay, so now let's move on to diet, foods, and nutrients as a way to regenerate your brain. Eating brain healthy foods is basically non-negotiable. In fact, neurogenesis requires the right raw materials from food. And diet obviously has a significant influence on learning, memory, and overall brain function, in fact. So a brain healthy diet includes a low glycemic diet, foods that don't produce or overload the system with glucose. It includes anti-inflammatory foods, which are rich in antioxidants also. Also, it contains lots of fruit and vegetables, high quality fats, grass-fed meats if you're a meat eater, wild fish, pastured chicken and eggs, but no processed foods and no foods that stimulate inflammation or pro-inflammatory foods, as they are called. And no unhealthy fats, okay? Just healthy fats, okay? There's many unhealthy fats out there, but the healthy fats are things like avocados and coconut oil and olive oil, ghee, butter. Ghee preferably, because ghee is basically clarified butter. It's just butter where the dairy aspect of it, the dairy solids have been removed and you're left with the pure fat. And that's extremely healthy for the brain. Okay, another when it comes to diet, foods, and nutrients is the ketogenic diet, ketones and the ketogenic diet. Now, this is really a low carb diet, less than 50 grams a day, with moderate protein and a high amount of good fats. Okay, so that's basically the ketogenic diet. And the low carb intake enables your body to enter ketosis. Okay, it's a metabolic state where the body and the brain run on ketones instead of glucose. And ketones actually increase neurogenesis, okay? So ketones are really good for your brain. And basically what you don't want to be on a ketogenic diet, weekly or continuously, week in and week out. You want to do it what we call on a cyclical basis. So for a couple of days, you go on a keto diet, say for 4 or 5 days, and the next 2 days, you basically eat more carbs. So you go out of ketosis basically, and then you go back into ketosis for the next 4 or 5 days or 3 or 4 days. So you do it on a cyclical basis, okay? Because there is a bit of a risk with hormonal, dysfunction occurring. But it's a really very good diet. I wouldn't call it a diet. It's more like maybe it's a lifestyle. I would think keto lifestyle. Okay, you can use also exogenous ketones to get into ketosis rather than a restrictive ketogenic diet. So you actually buy these ketone powders, and you drink that basically, and that will raise your ketone levels, and then you'll get the benefits from that. The ketogenic diet actually minimizes energy production from the breakdown of glucose. So you're basically not producing energy from glucose, which is a really inefficient way to produce energy. The best way to produce energy is to use fats. Okay, so ketogenic diet is brilliant in this regard. And also the ketogenic diet helps to alleviate symptoms, in metabolic diseases such as cancer. Okay, so it actually is quite beneficial there. And it also reduces free radical formation and the risk of cancer-inducing mutations. It actually delays the development of tumors. We mentioned some foods, but some specific ketogenic foods are your grass-fed meats, the cows that lived in the meadows, okay, and the sheep, and their organs, those are ketogenic foods. Organic free-range poultry, eggs, chicken and eggs, wild fish and other seafoods, okay, and then vegetables and fruits which are low in carbohydrates, including cabbage, asparagus, lemon, limes, green leafy vegetables, cauliflower, broccoli, berries, olives, and so forth. And we mentioned the healthy fats, the avocados, coconut oil, olive oil, ghee, nuts and seeds, even cream, that's also good. All right, so one must remember though that there's no one size fits all when it comes to diet. So we basically need to eat what suits us best as individuals, okay? And whatever style of diet that may be, So everybody's quite different, okay? So you need to tailor your diet to suit your genetic makeup, the kind of, basically what suits you, your preferences. Okay, so that's a very important point to remember. Now, there's many diets that one can choose from. And factors which determine whether the diet is effective or not, like I mentioned, genetics. Other factors include environment, current clinical status, whether you're sick or not, past medical history and other factors. So you got to start with a baseline diet and then work from there. And really you must find a diet which works synergistically with your physiology. That's ultimately what you need to do, your genetics and your physiology, okay? In fact, the word nutrigenomics is really a study of how diet affects genes. Now, there's a condition called orthorexia, which is really an obsession with healthful eating. One has to be very careful that one doesn't become orthorexic, because this can be quite damaging to health and well-being. You can develop nutrient deficiencies and so forth. It's really an obsessive disorder, basically, orthorexia. Okay, another thing that can be done, or practice rather, is intermittent fasting to get your brain to regenerate, okay? Because intermittent fasting also generates ketones, so it puts you into ketosis. Actually, it's 20 times more effective than the ketogenic diet, intermittent fasting. So if you really produce more ketones by fasting intermittently than going on a cyclical ketogenic diet. So there's many benefits then to intermittent fasting. It decreases your blood sugar, it increases your ketone production, like we said, reduces inflammation, strengthens your immune system, burns fat, and many more benefits. And there's different kinds of intermittent fasting. You can fast for 16 hours of the day out of 24, or 18 hours of the day. You can do a complete 24-hour fast, 1 or 2 days a week. You can do a 3-day or a 5-day water fast. So this is a whole subject on its own, intermittent fasting, and books have been written just on intermittent fasting. Okay, so when you're not eating during those periods where you're not taking any food into your body, during this time your body undergoes repair. And there's also something called autophagy happening, or autophagy as they call it, and other healing and detox processes. And in autophagy, the body is really, the cells are getting rid of waste. They're basically clearing out all the waste, all the redundant material, and so forth. And also neurogenesis occurs during intermittent fasting periods. Okay, so yeah, all right. Now, there are many nutrients which are also helpful for the prevention and reversal of neurodegeneration. So I'm not going to discuss all of them in detail, but I will do so in the course, which I mentioned earlier, when that course becomes available. And in that course, I'll discuss these nutrients and supplements in much more detail. But yeah, I'm just going to give you the list of them, which are very important that you take them on a regular basis. Okay, so it's turmeric, green tea is a very important one, broccoli, which itself contains sulforaphane, omega-3 fatty acids, folate, thiamine, okay, choline, bioflavonoids, very important, probiotics, mulberries are very, very good, zinc, black pepper, grapeseed extract, goji berries, fat-soluble vitamins, and collagen, okay? So these are all very, very important foods and nutrients that you should be using actually on a daily basis, taking these in on a daily basis. All right, so now there's also supplements and herbs, other supplements and herbs that it's advisable to take to prevent and reverse neurodegeneration. And as I said, there's many of them, but I'm only going to list them. I'll actually just go through the list. But again, I'll discuss them in detail, when the course becomes available, or they'll be discussed in detail in the course. So here's the list. It's a liposomal glutathione, anhydrous chloride dimethyl sulfoxate spray, or HOCl DMSO spray. This is brilliant stuff, to help the brain to regenerate. MCT oil, which comes from coconut oil, medium chain triglyceride, very, very good for regenerating the brain. Exogenous ketones, which we mentioned earlier, rhodiola, rosea, huperazine, ginseng, psilocybin, melatonin, St. John's wort, pregnenolone, cannabidiol, CBD oil, very good for the brain, ginkgo biloba, what's the other one? Galantamine, red sage. Oh, there's many. Berberine, horny goatweed, lotus root extract, Chinese skullcap. So there's many supplements and herbs that are available for you to use to help your brain to prevent degeneration or to stimulate neurogenesis and neuroplasticity to regenerate the brain. Okay, so we've come to the end of this part 3 of this podcast on neurodegeneration. And I'd like to thank you for listening, taking the time, to spend watching these videos. I hope you found it interesting and informative. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and to hit the notification bell so that when we upload more videos, you're notified that this has taken place. So thanks again, and all of the best.